So I had a friend today send me, well, it was actually from a group of 4 people that we just kind of send conservative Christian stuff, mostly conservative. Usually it's, well, I'll be nice. It's, let's just say it's very, very, very conservative. And so you can imagine some of the things that get sent back and forth. But the one today was a video, and I'm going to get it posted. I didn't get it up on the site yet. But it's a video of a friend of the podcast, Dinesh D'Souza. And I don't know, it's been probably 4 or 5 years ago that we interviewed him, telling a story about, if you know who the journalist John Stossel is, and I would have to check because I'm not 100% sure, but I think John Stossel is a liberal. Again, don't hold me to that. It's irrelevant when it comes to the story what he is. But he had done some kind of a story. I don't know, maybe he's a conservative because his story was about global warming. And surely Facebook wouldn't have blocked something from a liberal on global warming. But anyway, they put the old fact check thing up, and this has been ruled fake news and all of those kind of things that people, you know, the fact checkers put up. Well, Stossel says that would hurt his reputation and almost like libeled him or slander, whichever one it would be. For slander is verbal and libel is print, so I don't know which one it qualifies at. But so he sued Facebook, and when they went to court, Facebook said he had no merit or no standing in the case because Facebook fact checkers are actually just people who check people's posts against Facebook's opinion. And when Dinesh was telling it, it was funny because he said something to like, well, it's a fact checker that's given their opinion of another person's opinion.
Isn't it insanity?
And so,
and then people like me get put in Facebook work release.
Well, and that's where I was going to go with it. Is it didn't say you posted fake news, but it did say that you published content that went against Facebook's standards.
Trevor said John Stossel is a libertarian. Come see, come saw.
Well, no, that's better than liberal.
It says libertarian.
Yeah. But libertarian is way better than a liberal. No, it's way more than that. You would agree with a lot of things that libertarians, they don't want our money going to foreign countries and lots of things like that. Rand Paul, who is a Republican, would probably lean toward libertarian views. They're for straight holding the tax line or lowering it and things like that. But so I'm going to get that video posted, and I'll post it everywhere because it just shows how hypocritical Facebook is in that.
Look out now, we're not going to be able to post nothing.
Well, I don't care. I hope Facebook is listening, and if they are, I don't care if you ban us or not, because we'll go somewhere else.
Yeah, facts is facts.
And we will personally contact the followers that we know, and we'll go somewhere else, because it's ridiculous that they would do that. They make their fact check. They did it all through the election.
Oh, well, absolutely.
It had an effect on the election. And then it's just basically saying, well, so what? It's what they said wasn't really a lie. We just didn't like it.
It just wasn't our opinion, so it's wrong. No, it's your opinion. Opinions are like noses. Everybody has one and they smell. Did I clean that up?
You cleaned it up real nice.
I mean, it's an opinion. Just because it's their opinion doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong. It's in between. It's why it's an opinion. But Facebook is...
All hail?
They're not my all hail.
Well, here's the deal.
My all hail hung on a hill, on a tree. That's what I worship, not Facebook, not what's his face that made Facebook, because I could give a fuzzy rat's behind about that.
Zuckerberg.
You go.
I was going to go to him next. When you consider, I've looked and seen an article or something that talked about his net worth, and I forget how many billion. It seemed like it was like $118 billion net worth. That's B.
And you know what? All the bees in the world don't account for what my all hail gave. And Zuckerberg and his billions don't mean squat to me.
Well, but my point is,
well,
guess who he made that money off of?
We're absolutely. All of those that have the same opinion as him.
Well, that's not who he made his money off of. He made his money off of you and me.
Oh, well, give me those bees back. I want my bees so that I can give them to the man that hung on the tree.
Zuckerberg, Facebook is free. How many ever millions of people that get on Facebook, they get on for free. Now there's things that they charge you for on Facebook. You can run ads, you can boost posts and all kind of things like that. But Zuckerberg made his money off of gathering data and selling that to businesses.
Yep.
That's how the 118 billion or whatever number that is came about. So I'm trying to think of, I heard a story, I can't remember what I think it was on a Perry Stone video I watched today. And Perry had a guest that was talking about, he went into this business that is a data collecting business. And this business owner was telling him down to like what stores he shopped at and knew it in real time. He was telling the guy, every morning about 7 o'clock you stop by whatever bakery so they had this one huge like warehouse room that was just full of computers that were pulling this data, and then he went into another room that was about the same size, and it was analyzing all of the data that was pulled from the other room. And part of the story was that people say that they're not listening to you through your phones, and this point makes the whole thing, it just seals the deal. If they're not listening to you, how does Siri know that you're talking to it? How does Bixby? We have Bixby on our phones.
Well, it's so bad that we can be discussing something and it won't be 10 minutes and we'll have an ad pop up on our phone exactly about what we were just talking about.
Well, and it's 100% guaranteed that they're tracking where you are, because if you pull up to, let's say, a shopping center and close by there's a Texas Roadhouse or a Starbucks or whatever, it'll start telling you about those things that's close by, right in real time. So that, wow, maybe I'll just go to Starbucks based off of that. And
well, no, I won't, because I don't like Starbucks.
I know.
I mean, I love their coffee. Will not give them my money.
We'll continue with Dunkin' Donuts. There's our business.
There's our plug for Dunkin', but we'll give them our money.
But you see how Zuckerberg made his billions. How many ever it is.
You're pronouncing that wrong.
Zuckerberg? Well, I'm being nice tonight.
Okay.
So, I guess we have to just live with it. That they know what we're doing and where we're doing it at. If somebody that...
Well, ours will even tell where our car is parked.
Well, I never have had it do that, but it comes up every time we park the car. Bixby can tell you where your car is parked.
Well, and he needs that.
See, you said that the other day, and you got that story wrong. That story was about a little old lady that I helped in the parking lot at Walmart find her car. Because she was on one side of the parking lot and it was on the other. And I'm walking around the parking lot hitting her panic button to find her car. So you made fun of me when I was just being a good Samaritan.
Okay. And that may be true, and you were a good Samaritan.
It is true, not maybe.
But do you know how many times that he's walked out of one side of Walmart and started to go, where do we park? And we're out the other side?
About the same amount that you do.
Not. I know where I park because I go straight to the same aisle almost every single time that we go. And if it's one, because I know I'm not going to look silly, because I know I would.
Okay. Well.
I have a method to my madness because I know I'm going to look silly. And I look silly enough without helping myself.
Well, I want to just segue right in. We'll talk some more personal stuff at the end. And one of the reasons I'm doing that is I've started a new thing where I take out the first part of the prayer and share hour, where we basically just banter back and forth about our family. And then I take the end of it out, the prayer request part, and just have a YouTube done of current events. And I'm going to actually highlight those. You know, we have 2 times a week we get together, and I'm going to change the YouTube into audio and make that as segments on a podcast, because we got to get our podcast back up and running as well as everything else we do. And that seems to be one of the best ways of doing that. So I'm going to try to keep all the current events together, is why I went that direction. We said we just have to live with it, you know, with Zuckerberg and him checking on us and all that good stuff. This story says, doctor says fully vaccinated people are going to test positive with Omicron. I don't know. And if you look Omicron up, it's, well, I'll let you look it up and see what everything tells you. But are going to test positive with Omicron, our new normal. So if you're vaccinated, they're telling you you're going to test positive with this variant, and that is our new normal. As the highly contagious variant quickly spreads across the country, A respiratory specialist says Americans should expect to see more breakthrough cases of COVID in fully vaccinated people, and that's fine. You know, they've got this whole vaccine thing covered to where if people started just keeling over the second they got the shot, that they would say that's expected. We have to just expect that a certain number of people are going to do that. You know, not only do we have have to get 2 shots for most of the brands, and then now booster and another booster, and now we got a third variant all of a sudden, and we're just going to have to live with it. He says here later on, we have to get comfortable with fully vaccinated folks testing positive. That's going to be our new normal, he told the Today Show. But people should not worry about that, because the purpose of vaccines is not to prevent a positive test or a respiratory virus like Omicron. It's to keep you out of the hospital, and that's exactly what they're doing. So you mean to tell me that all of the talk for all of these months about a vaccine, and now they're telling us it's designed just to keep you out of the hospital? And that is the new normal, and we just got to live with it.
Gotta live with it.
I mean, they like shoot themselves in the foot when they do stuff like that. Why would, for the people who haven't been vaccinated, why in the world would you choose to get vaccinated now?
Right?
I got one thing to say about that entire topic. One person. Colin Powell. The vaccine didn't keep him out of the hospital. He was fully vaccinated. Not only did it not keep him out of the hospital, but he died. You know, I know that there's been dozens and dozens of people who were adamantly against the vaccine. And we've said this together dozens and dozens of times. The vaccine is a personal choice. We don't care if you get a vaccine. We're not going to think anything less of you. You know,
No.
Most of our family has the vaccine. And we've lost loved ones to COVID. So, you know, please, if you want to get vaccinated, by all means, get vaccinated. But I don't see any reason to do it now. And to continue to get boosted and boosted and boosted. Because, see, they go back and help make some of the points that we've made. We don't know how the side effects are going to be from these things. Weeks, months, years from now. And they just keep putting more and more and more in people's bodies. And we don't know that the very first shot of the vaccine isn't bad for you. And so, you know, the number of times you get jabbed, it seems like your odds of something negative happening go up because, well, just numbers are that way.
Right.
So, I don't know. I'd said that we wouldn't talk much about the vaccine anymore, but I'd like to know what people that are vaccinated think about a statement like this. Fully vaccinated people are going to test positive with the new variant. That's our new normal. What do you think about that? Did you think when you were getting the vaccine that you were getting something that would keep you from getting the virus? Now, don't say it based off of today. I want you to say it based off of when you took the vaccine the first time. Because back then, they weren't selling it as it'll keep you out of the hospital. They sold it as it will save lives. And people would say, well, if you only get a mild case, that's saving your life. I agree. I don't disagree. But there's no promise. And I know that they didn't make that promise from the get-go, but boy, they were really close.
Right.
They were really close. So I'd like to hear some of your opinions on that. And there's Olivia.
There is Olivia.
Well, we got some comments on that. It's about control. Amen. Remember when Fauci said if you were vaccinated, no more mask or distance? And then there is Olivia. I had a person today tell me they're not anti-vax. They just don't believe that we should be forced. And that's right where we are.
Right.
We just don't think we should be forced to do something. And there's a long list of reasons why we feel that way. So let's move on. I got a story now that Amy had sent me earlier. And let me refresh this. It's a sad story. It's a sad story. And it's about the tornadoes and the things that took place. This one is in Kentucky. You know, I kind of feel bad sometimes because Kentucky has gotten basically almost all the attention on this, and there were several other states that got hit as well. And I may have to go back and get the link again. Why don't you go ahead and set the story up a little bit?
Well, it's kind of hard to do that without kind of telling the story. What?
Tell us where it was and...
Kentucky. I don't remember what town it was. Did you find it? Because I don't remember specifically what town that it was in. It was a candle factory.
And pretty much everybody's heard of the candle factory getting demolished.
Yeah, completely demolished. And I don't remember what town it was in this. And did you find it?
It's just buffering.
Oh, lovely.
You want me to go through it?
Okay, go ahead.
You have to help me fill in the blanks.
Okay, I'll do what I can do. I mean,
you probably heard the story about the candle factory, and it was completely destroyed. And it was 7 inmates, right? Wasn't it the number?
I think so.
7 inmates that worked at this candle factory, and it was work release, just like what Amy's in. I mean, you could substitute Amy's name into this correctional officer, and the story would fit.
Yeah.
Now, thank God it's not that way, but yeah, and it ain't. Let's see if it goes that way. So the difference between here and there is this guy, his assignment was to watch over these inmates while they were working at the candle factory. They don't do that here locally. If they're on work release, they go out at a certain time, and give me that process real quick.
They go out and they go to work. They come in. They've got schedules We verify that they go, that we verify that they come back, what times. So we know where they're at and when they're supposed to be where they're at and when they're supposed to be back.
So this, Beth Sheldon says it's Mayfield, and I do
right. Think that. Yeah, I think that's exactly right.
So the tornado is closing in on them, and the correctional officer makes sure that all 7 of the inmates that he's responsible for got to safety, which caused him not to be able to get to safety soon enough, and he lost his life.
Yeah, the officer was killed in the process of getting the 7 inmates safe. And the inmates all actually spoke very, very highly of that officer and said that he actually died in the line of duty doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, and made sure that they all were safe, and lost his life making sure of that.
I would go as far as to say he was going way above and beyond what he was paid to do.
Well, and the superintendent of the correctional facility that he came from said the exact same thing, that he went above and beyond the call of duty to make sure that those inmates were safe, and lost his life in the process.
Because my estimation was his primary focus was to make sure that they stayed where they were supposed to be. Wouldn't you say that was his main job description for that?
Right. I mean, his job description was to make sure that they stayed where they were at, but also that they stayed safe where they were at.
And see, I think the stayed safe is the above and beyond.
Well, no, I mean that's just part of what we do is to to stay, to make sure that they're safe wherever they're at.
I get it.
I mean that's part of an oath of what we do, is to make sure that their safety is first and foremost.
I'm just thinking in that particular situation, his primary responsibility was keeping track of them, and he kept track of them. He kept track of them right into the safe area. And Beth and Olivia are making comments. Beth said at Mayfield, the workers were begging to go home starting at 3, and it was an 8-hour job.
Wow.
Or maybe an $8. I'm not sure what she meant.
Probably $8 an hour job. I don't know.
Wow. She said her brother lives there.
Yeah.
And I'd heard stories about them asking to go home and were told that they couldn't.
Wow.
And there's already been at least one lawsuit filed.
Oh, I bet.
As a result of, well, I mean, they still got the rubble on the ground, and lawsuits are already happening.
And I think that it was the officer's brother that had to go and identify the officer himself, and then had to tell his son.
It was his brother. There's a video that goes with this story, and we'll get that up as well. He sounded real confident and everything, and the next thing you know, he wasn't confident anymore. And he just he didn't seem like he was going to lose it, and then he just lost it, and you just felt bad for him, because he had a real strong voice, like
and the superintendent fell apart in talking about it as well. And they presented the man's son with a badge, because that officer took pride in keeping his badge nice and shiny and looking fresh. And so they presented the boy with a badge.
And did you notice after they handed it to him, he was just rubbing it and feeling it?
And they said this will never replace him, but it might help you feel a little closer to him or something. I mean, really sentimental. And I mean, I just can't, I say I can't imagine, and I really can't imagine what that young man is going through. I just can't. You know, I mean, tragically losing your father in that kind of a situation. But that man died as a hero.
Oh, absolutely. Well, the email that you sent, that's what heroism of one of our own was the subject of it.
I mean, he was one of our own. I mean, it hits really close to home because he was one of ours.
Well, as I said, I mean, if that happened here, you put Amy's name in the place of this man's name, and that's one of the reasons I keep trying to pull the story up. I'd really like to be able to tell his name. And for some reason, our link, I don't know, maybe it's getting 8 billion hits a minute or something because it just is buffering and won't go through.
Well, it might be because you got 4,000 things open.
Nah, that's not it. Everything else works.
Well,
you're right, though. He definitely a hero. And one of the couple of things that I thought was interesting was that the correctional officers wanted to do that with the badge and give recognition right now. They didn't want to wait until the official, you know, it's going to take days.
Oh, yeah.
If not longer to be able to plan, you know, ceremonies and funerals and all kind of things like that. And they wanted something right now to be able to help that family.
Absolutely.
And as they were mourning the loss of their fellow worker who is like their family. I mean, you know how it is where you work. You're close to the people that you work with most of the time, and you spend more time with them than you do your family most of the time because between how many ever hours a day you work and sleep, then whatever's left is maybe with your family, and I'm going to guarantee you that it's not nearly that. Go ahead.
Officer Robert Daniels. He was supervising the work crew when a tornado devastated the Mayfield area, destroyed the building that was as posted Officer Down memorial page.
So, Robert Daniels. And thank you in memory of Officer Daniels. And thank you to his family for sharing him with the world.
Absolutely.
And we know that there are 7 people outside of family that will never forget him. And many, many more. Beth says it was $8 an hour. Workers told if they left, they were fired.
Wow. Wow. Wonder how those people feel now. You know, how do those supervisors and management or whatever it was, how do they feel now? How do you sleep? Wow. That gave me goosebumps. Thinking that you're telling people that make $8 an hour if you leave, you're fired.
Well, I'm trying to think, and this did happen since we were on Tuesday night. Remember the missionaries in Haiti that got kidnapped?
Yes.
And they released a couple, and the rest of them were released this week.
Isn't that amazing?
The rest of them were released. And the headline, "We glorify God for answered prayer. All missionary hostages finally freed in Haiti." And they're from Christian Aid Ministries, and the statement they put out said, "Join us in praising God that all 17 of our loved ones are now safe. Thank you for your fervent prayers throughout the past 2 months. We hope to provide more information as we are able. I will sing unto the Lord, for he hath triumphed gloriously." Exodus 15:1, the statement said.
Wow.
You know, sometimes you might think that 2 months really isn't very long, but boy, that would seem like an eternity from both the people that were kidnapped and their families back here. That
Right.
I mean, how could their mind be on anything else
Absolutely.
during the day?
Yeah.
How many hours of sleep were lost
Crazy.
during that time? I can't imagine. You know, there's a lot of things you can't imagine about this world, but, you know, that makes me think of Pastor Naren, and
right.
I was actually watching. He comes on about 7 o'clock every morning on a Facebook Live, and I hadn't fell back asleep yet, so I turned that on, and I commented on it, and he thanked me back. But his was way longer than 2 months, and you know, he wasn't exactly kidnapped. He was just held hostage by the government.
Isn't that crazy?
But his family doesn't know if he's being treated right, treated well, being fed.
Yeah. Have no idea.
Is he living in a 4x4 room that barely fits a bed and peeing in a can? Or, you know, they don't know. But this is great news. And I got to just tell you, folks, I have heard so many things that have happened in the last probably 2 weeks that you can only explain it with, it had to be God. I mean, I know Bill and Tanya are in here, or they were at least. I don't know if they still are.
They still are.
And, you know, we wanted to fill up I think it was, I said 18, I think, on Tuesday. I think it was a 20-footer. And, you know, Sunday, the church board were together, and we prayed that whatever size truck we were able to get, that we fill it up. Well, he got as big as he could get, I believe, with U-Haul. I got there before, it was supposed to actually start at 6 o'clock. I got there at like 5 minutes till 6, and the truck was 2/3 of the way full when I got there, in addition to huge piles that were still on the ground, and people were still running through the parking lot, you know, driving through and dropping off and this all happened from Sunday to Tuesday. You know, this wasn't like it was planned weeks in advance.
Right.
You know, I think they started actually Saturday, and it got presented to everybody else on Sunday. And we ended up not just filling the truck up, but the church van, and there was people there.
Another full trailer.
No, the story with that is they were transferring that from our stuff to theirs.
Okay.
I didn't understand that at first,
okay,
but that's what was happening. Cisco straightened me out on that.
Okay. Cisco to the rescue.
Yes, he was. Well, that night, Tuesday night, Bill was standing Bill worked his behind off.
Yeah.
I think he probably touched just about every single bag of clothes that went in there, because you'd hand them to him, he'd throw them to the back. You'd hand it to, I mean, seriously. And Tanya did too. She was going hard inside the garage where we had a bunch of clothes stored. And so they both, but I mean, when I left, I gave Bill a hug, and he was drenched.
He was yuck?
Yeah, he was, Amy's word, yuck. But there was that, and just so many things that have gone on. You know our story about the guy at Sam's Club, and
well, just a simple thing. I had two pair of earrings that just were in little clear plastic bags that I couldn't find. Couldn't find anywhere. I was wrapping presents. I couldn't find these two pair of earrings. And they had gotten picked up and thrown away with a bunch of other stuff. And I had looked and looked and looked and was almost in tears, couldn't find these 2 pair of diamond earrings. And then I started praying about it, and I prayed and prayed and prayed, and I was so frustrated. And he left, and I went into the utility room where the trash was, and I looked, and they were sitting right on top of the trash. They weren't in the trash where the rest of the stuff was that I had thrown away earlier. They were right on top. They weren't with the rest of the stuff underneath. They were right sitting on top, like they were just laid right there. That was a God thing.
Well, at Bible study on Sunday, we talked about our encounter at Sam's Club and then opened it up for people to tell stories of, you could only explain that God had his hand in it.
Yeah.
And I wish we had that Bible study recorded.
Oh, man.
Because what a blessing it was. Story after story after story, that the only way you can explain it is God was involved in it. And let me tell you something. The splaining days may be about over. I'm going to probably get into this next week, and I think we've brought it up, but I want to go deeper into it. That statue that is at the UN building of, it's almost perfectly described in Daniel and Revelation. And they've got a statue at the UN building that almost perfectly matches what that says.
Wow.
So and if you know Daniel, there's a lot of end times prophecy in Daniel, and that's what Revelation is. So I want to get into that. I didn't want to just hit and run on that. I want to take a really good look at it.